I am Daniel Lucas.
I am Sal Casenza, and welcome to
Abstract Essay. Abstract Essay is created for artists like us.
Yes, and we have another artist in our midst, Daniel.
Yes.
We have Jennie Richau. Jennie Richau is here. Thank you for being here, Jennie.
Thank you
Just a quick bio before we grill you. No, just kidding. So Jennie Richau is based out of Arizona. She's got sort of like I compare you, Jennie, to like an alter ego, a superhero, right?
Yeah.
So by day, Jennie is a certified broker. She's with Brokers Hub Realty. She's been working with them for many years. However, she's also the founder of Studio Richau and its subsidiary, which is newly created and debuting soon with some great new work by local artists called Richau & Co., which has a nice sort of sound to it. So Richau & Co. is, Jennie will correct me, I'm sure, but it's an art and accessories boutique. It's located in North Scottsdale. Jennie herself has a background in the arts. She has a degree, a bachelor's in industrial design from ASU, fellow Sun Devil. And I learned recently that Jennie was taught by none other than Janet Blum, who, if you had seen our last episode, Rudy Mendoza also was taught by Janet Blum.
Yes.
I was taught by Janet Blum. Janet Blum is an amazing Arizona-based art educator who we got to get on this podcast at some point. But Richau & Co. So it was born out of Jennie's love of beautiful scarves. You'll see some of these scarf designs in a moment. But now Jennie is expanding it, right? You're turning it into a place, morphing it into a place for local artists where they could show seasonal work, right? The latest stuff coming out of their own studios. You're showcasing and celebrating at Richau & Co. This will be on a rotating basis. If you'd like to see more and learn more, check out studiorichau.com. That's studio, RICHAU.com. And Jennie's on Instagram at Studio Richau or Richauco, RICHAUCO. Jennie, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So when I reviewed your bio, I was checking out like your journey so far. It really reminds me of, I don't know if any of you have seen this movie. Remember the movie Hook with Peter Pan and Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman? So Robin Williams in that movie, he turns into an adult. He used to be Peter Pan, right? But
Yes.
then, he becomes like a lawyer. He has the wife and the kid. He kind of forgets like that he was Peter Pan. But then later in the film, he rediscovers these superpowers, right? So I feel like your story, Jennie, is sort of like the Peter Pan story, right? Where you're sort of, does it feel that way? Or am I alone here? But do you feel like you're rediscovering your superpowers?
I feel like I am. I mean, I grew up as just kind of a creative kid. I loved making art. I remember, the finger paints as a kid and going through art. Janet Blum, of course, was helpful in elementary school and getting me, confident and feeling good about it. And throughout high school, I did a lot of art and to college, a degree in design. And, at some point, I kind of lost that, right? And I kind of went into a more business world, and coming back to it is really amazing, and it makes me feel like, well, why did I ever give this up? Why did I ever take a break from this? But I think people also think that creativity just comes naturally to people, and it does, but it doesn't mean it's not work, and doesn't mean it's not hard and challenging at times. So sometimes I think we have to step back and say, this isn't my time for it, or isn't my time for this medium, or isn't this time for a creative business. And so I set it aside for a long time, just infusing creativity in my other jobs, but now it's time to bring it back and do more with it.
Right. But once you do that, now it's kind of like the meat and potatoes, right? You have to sort of create a new business, right? So I wonder, can you share with us, or maybe a future entrepreneur, like, can you share, like, what are some of the meat and potatoes basics? I'm imagining you have to create an LLC, right? I'm imagining
Oh,
partnerships, sponsors, maybe liquor licenses. I don't know, but I'm wondering, can you share like what that process is like?
for starting a business?
Yeah, for creating something like Richau and Co.
Yeah, well, Rochelle and Co. has just kind of evolved in this kind of weird way that I didn't expect at all a few months ago. But I mean, I think a lot of artists don't understand the business side of things, and this is something that Rudy and I talk about quite a bit, actually. But
Mhm.
you can do the art, you can do the creativity, but you have to do the LLC to go with it if you're going to make money. You have to find a way to sell it online. So what's your platform for that? Are you gonna, how are you gonna pay your taxes, right? You've got to do the forms, and that part is, these things are so frustrating from the standpoint of I just want to make the art, but you have to do the business too. And what I run into a lot of is when I contact an artist, say, hey, do you want to come and put your work in my store? Do you want to do a collaboration or something? And it's days before they get back to you. It's like one business day. It shouldn't be more than one business day before you respond to people. Even if you say, "Hey, I see your email. I'm in the middle of a big project right now. I'll call you next week." You just let them know that you
Right.
see that, hear that, because otherwise they're just like, "Oh, that's just a flaky artist," or that's just, "Oh, they don't know the business side of it. They're gonna be difficult to work with." So really, you know, even taking some business courses or just watching some YouTube videos, like how should you do this? How can you be professional? And what are the steps you have to take to be compliant with, licensing and the taxes and laws and things like that? You've got to do the grunt backside of it. It's not fun, but you got to do it.
Right. And it seems like an underlying theme, Daniel, of our podcast, like these episodes when we're interviewing
Yes.
entrepreneurs, it seems like communication is a dying art, right? In the arts world, right? It needs to sort of be front and center, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of I'm echoing what you're sort of saying, right? Because
Yeah.
communication is professional,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, yeah, I'm a stalwart about communication. I tell my students all the time, I'm like, communicate with your peers when you're working on something,
Yeah.
right? That's a
Because it's also
fundamental
those
thing.
those conversations are also what lead to greater ideas and collaborations, and it's the connection with people that get you into another gallery. Or, oh, I know so and so, oh, you should meet so and so, and oh yeah, they interest me to this person, to that person, and pretty soon now I'm in a gallery, or now I'm selling my work, or doing something greater because you took the time to have those conversations and do the stuff that didn't seem fun at the time, but you did it anyway. So
hmm So you're on the eve of this new chapter in your life, right? So Richau and Co. It's going to debut soon.
yeah.
I wonder, how do you mentally stay afloat during this time, during this sort of new chapter leap that you're taking? How do you sort of keep the ship steady as a captain?
Well, two things I think are key here. One, I have an amazingly supportive boyfriend. And so he gets kind of like the worst of it. Like, I'll call him and say, "Oh my gosh, I think I made a terrible mistake to do this." And I'll be like, "No, it's okay. You're fine. Here's how we're going to do this." And, the other part to it is like, I don't know if anyone here listens to Tim Ferriss. You kind of either love Tim Ferriss or you don't love Tim Ferriss. But Tim Ferriss has this exercise. He's a big podcaster, but he has this exercise called fear setting. And though I
Mm.
haven't done that in great detail, the whole premise of it is figure out everything that you think could possibly go wrong, and then put a plan in place for that. How would you avoid it in the first place, right? And
Yes.
going through the worst case scenarios, going, well, if this completely fails, what is my financial cost? What is my emotional cost? What happens if the store completely goes under 6 months from now and I've got this 3 year lease? Like, what is the worst case scenario of everything? And then you just put stopgaps in place for that and a plan in place. And then once you realize, oh, these scenarios are A, not even likely to happen, and B, like,
Right.
they're fixable. You can fix anything,
And it takes
So
the shock away, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like the
So, and
scare
then you,
factor.
yeah, and then when you look at that and you go, oh, it's really not that bad at all, then it's like, okay, we can proceed. So
Yeah,
I just,
I think that that's really great advice, right? For anyone starting a business, for anyone who has like a dream to create something new, be prepared for the worst case scenario, but don't expect it, but just
right.
be ready for it, right? That's really good feedback.
Yeah. And
That's like,
I also felt like this, what we start Risho and Co as in August of 2025, and what happens, in the first 6 months, in the first year, in the first 2 years, we're going to be on a weaving path. It's not going to be a straight line. There's not going to be one moment of success. It's going to live and breathe and change and grow organically. And I just have to be open to what that looks like. The old me was
right.
like, it's going to be this way and we're going to move forward in this direction and everyone's going to want this one product. And, and I would frustrate myself with things like that. But right now I just kind of had to let the reins out a little and say, whatever happens is going to happen. And I need to be prepared to shift directions if I need.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's definitely a complicated art market in Arizona. Um, but I think there's a great art scene here, in Phoenix, especially parts
Oh,
of Scottsdale. It's the biggest challenge is the summer always, but luckily the summer for this year is over soon.
yeah.
And I think in your case also just messaging, right? And you're doing that, right? But messaging is important. Getting it out, getting word out through many different channels is important. So that's good. I want to ask you also, as a creative entrepreneur, what aggravates you? Like what frustrates you, like maybe in your own journey and process in getting Richau and Co. off the ground, or something you've seen, or some sort of roadblock?
I think I could probably narrow it down to two things. One would be I lack patience. I think
Hmm.
everything needs to be done immediately, right
Me
now.
too.
And, things don't always work on my schedule. And that is so frustrating to me. But also, I think people have an assumption that because you're creative and you made something beautiful or created a beautiful space, that it came easy to you. And they just think, and I did this even when I was a designer, people would think, why would you charge so much? It's just so natural to you. It's like, one, maybe not, and two, that doesn't make it worth any less. Like I'm not good at accounting. You're an accountant. That doesn't mean you should work for free just because you're naturally good with numbers. So I think
Yep.
people's perception of, oh, because you have this sort of natural ability, it comes easy, but it doesn't. There's always struggle behind the scenes and challenges that we don't talk about or show the world.
Yeah. And as the Joker in The Dark Knight once said, if you're good at something, never do it for free,
Exactly.
right? So we're going from Peter Pan to the Joker. Next question in the pike. What's the biggest thing preventing creative people from pursuing their dream?
I
I
think
guess there's multiple things, but in
there's
your
so
in
many
again in your
things.
experience.
I think it's a lot of it is self-doubt, which is something
Hmm.
I went through for a long time. Just,
Which I also have.
yeah, there's self-doubt and there's imposter syndrome that really stick with the
Oh,
creatives.
yeah.
There's also, I think, a perception of creative careers aren't real, that it's like a hobby, or that, oh, you'll never make enough money as an artist. Um, and so I think people think, well, I have to work this banking job to put food on the table so I can afford to be an artist when I retire or afford to make art on the weekends, when really if they, double down on their art, their craft, their passion, it might turn into a business. But I mean, they could turn it into a business. So I think there's self-doubt, and I think there's just this disbelief of that creative fields aren't real jobs.
Right. Which, we have to just mentally like plow through that, right?
Right. And
Because that's
it's ridiculous. I mean, if you think about, my brother and I have talked about this so many times. He's a professional musician. And, if we look at classic example of in the pandemic, when everything shut down, the world shut down, right? You couldn't go outside, you couldn't do whatever. What did we turn to? We turned to the
yeah,
arts. We turned to movies. We turned to music. We turned to picking up new hobbies. Well, guess what? All those people putting those things together, the movies, the books, the series on Netflix, those are all creative jobs. Like creativity really is everywhere. It's all around us, and really kind of is the kind of
yeah.
hidden unsung hero behind so many things.
The pandemic, that lockdown was almost like it gave artists and creatives almost permission, Like you
Yeah.
had free reign to just create during this time because there's nothing
Yeah.
else to do. You
Yeah.
don't
To
have to go to
create.
work.
Yeah. To
Right?
create and to consume the creativity, right, from other people. So
Like
yeah,
one
that
of
was.
the only good things about that period, right? It was like it was ripe with creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mentors. I'm wondering, did you have mentor? I mean, we talked about Janet Blum. How is Janet Blum fundamental, I wonder, to your early career?
Gosh. You know what?
And
She's
I'll send this
so,
to her.
we could talk for hours about how
She'll
amazing
get
she
a kick out of it.
is. But she's so encouraging and she's so kind and she just embodies this whole idea of you don't have to be a professional artist or good artist. Your art is beautiful. Like she always finds something amazing about every piece. It doesn't matter what that piece looks like. She's going to say, "Oh my gosh, I love this color. I love your composition here." She
Mhm.
finds all these things about it that you don't see yourself. She told me when I saw her at that painting event that night, she goes, "I still have a piece you did in sixth grade, or maybe it was freshman year." I was like, "What?" Like, I don't even remember that piece. And of all the things that have come and gone out of her life, she still has one. And I kind of hope she doesn't because it's probably terrible.
Yeah.
But
And she's
yeah,
she's painting now too, again,
yeah,
Janet Blum. But
yeah,
and we talk about, low self-esteem. Janet Blum was a low self-esteem killer. She would sort of stop it in its
yeah,
tracks, right? She would give us like comments and feedback that emboldened us, that sort
correct.
of broke us out of that shell,
Yeah,
um, which we're both grateful for, obviously.
yeah.
I want to ask you, and then Daniel, I'm sure you got a bunch of questions too. Um, what would Jennie Richau say to Jennie Richau from 10 years ago? What advice would you give that
Oh
version
my
of yourself?
God. I somehow knew you were going to ask this question. I don't have exact words, but it would be centered around having more self-confidence.
Hmm.
Because I feel like every time I started something new, I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe my art was good enough. I didn't believe that, when I got my real estate license, I thought, "Oh, I'm the new kid on the block. No one's gonna believe I can do this, or everyone's gonna think I'm a fraud when I got my broker's license because am I experienced enough for this?" And it's like totally. And every once in a while I have to look at myself and go, okay, somebody not as good at this job as me is doing this job and earning money at it, and somebody not as smart as me is doing something, or somebody who cares less than I do is being successful, and so why can't I do it? And probably took until recent years for me to really break that self-doubt and that imposter syndrome feeling. But yeah, I wish from a young age I had a lot more self-confidence.
But fast forward 10 years, and now you've got so many strings to your bow,
Yeah.
right? You're wearing many different hats, which is great. Daniel, do you have questions for Jenny?
Yes, Miss Jenny, as an entrepreneur, as an artist, if a masterpiece takes years to complete, how do you sustain financial and creative energy?
I'm sorry, what was the question? How do I sustain?
Sustain financial and creative energy.
Oh, financial and creative energy?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
You don't
I
you
How,
think
don't rob a bank.
how do you
don't rob
sustain
a
it?
bank.
No.
I've always been really good at living below my means. I've always been really good at saving. I also don't have kids, so I understand kids are very expensive. So that has helped me too to not have to spend that kind of money. But I'm sure they're great. But I didn't have any, and but I've always been really nervous about the future. So I've always been good about putting money aside for that next venture, for that rainy day, so that when something went awry or when I want to start a business, I had that money to fall back on. And that was always something that was really important to me, just kind of having that security blanket. And I just never like to take out, not that I never take out loans, but I don't like to take out loans. I don't like to take out debt. And I just, it's like if I don't have the cash or if I have to take out too much, I don't like owing people. So it's just got to stay kind of small. And it's possible that those ideals have prevented me from growing bigger, right? Because there's people that go get venture capital or, partners and grow their companies much bigger and faster. But for me, that's never felt authentic. And so I've always been scared of taking on that kind of risk. As far as sustaining creative energy. It comes and goes, right? I mean, I designed these scarves to launch Studio Richau, and I kind of got this steam going, and they went like crazy, and I got these two beautiful designs, and then I had to step back from that, and I had to say, okay, now I need to focus on getting this out to the world. And my boyfriend jokes now, oh, the design department's closed. They've been closed for a few months, Jenny. When's the next design? But
Yeah.
I
But you're
work a
not
lot of,
producing paper cups, right?
right.
Yep.
And I work a lot on momentum. So if the momentum's not there, then I either need to find that kindling to get it going, or just kind of let it simmer until that idea starts getting exciting again. And then I love doing um, large blocks of time in the evening. So a lot of times I'll come home from the day, I'll have dinner, I'll take a shower, and then I'll go sit in my studio at home and work for a few hours on my laptop on sketching or whatever I'm doing, and just kind of have that uninterrupted time in the evenings to do that.
Mhm. Do you see much overlap between your life as a broker and your life as an artist and entrepreneur?
No, the
Yeah.
real estate world is chaos all the time. It's really hard because you're kind of getting pulled in so many different directions at once with so many different people, and it's kind of like drop and run and go and do this now, and did they sign this by 5? And it's really stressful, and the creativity is so essential, I think, to
Mhm.
ground yourself from that. And I actually started taking ceramics classes a couple of years ago at Phoenix Center for the Arts as a way to just calm myself and work on my patience and have a creative outlet, because I was just, I mean, it's a stressful job.
Yeah. So we're talking with Jennie Richau. Again, you can check out studiorichau.com. Also, Instagram at Studio Richau. I want to also ask Jennie, is art still relevant? Is the work we do relevant? Is it going to survive in 20 years in this age that we live in with AI and with
Um,
content creation, right? Everything now is content, right?
yeah.
So do you see a path to be carved for the work you're doing and the work that other local artists are doing?
I think art will become more important in the years to come. Handmade art, stuff that comes from your brain, not the computer. I think for the immediate, as AI really, I mean, it's exponentially growing and becoming more advanced and interesting and helpful or destructive, depending on the circumstance. But I
Hmm.
think that we're going to have this novelty with it for a while, and then kind of explore its boundaries and figure out how far can we push those. But I think then we're going to realize, oh, this AI stuff, there's nothing behind it. There's no human behind it, and that painting is now more important, and that handmade jewelry is more important, because AI can't make jewelry. AI can't do, that painting behind me or this painting behind me. The AI can never put brush to paper, to brush to canvas. AI can never silversmith something. And the further we get away from human touch in our lives, the more we're going to realize the importance of that. So I think in the short few years, people are going to say, oh, what do we need artists for? We have AI. But in 5, 10 years, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, artists are so valuable and so important.
Hmm.
And I think it will be more, more, even more valuable to us in the future.
Very well said. You're giving me hope today, Jennie. I was
But
about to
I also think that AI is interesting. I mean, even when I was working on my next scarf design, I was like, I gave it to chat. I said, "Well, what would you do with this? I'm kind of stuck on this part of it. What would chat do with it?" And it gave me some ideas. Like, actually, that's really cool. What's my version of that? How can I
Mhm.
incorporate some of this? Because it kind of just got me on a different path for thinking, and I really appreciated that I can kind of go to it just to spur some ideas, but then take it from there and make it my own.
Yeah, and AI, it's another tool in the toolbox, right? At the end of
Exactly.
the day, if we are able, like you're saying, to contain it and to work with it, it's another tool, right? It's like
Exactly.
a paintbrush. Um, Daniel, any other questions for Jennie?
Miss Jenny, what role does failure play in achieving a masterpiece?
Hmm.
The failure is so important, because if you never achieve that, if you never have failures, you're never going to know when it's finished. You're never going to know when you have something amazing, right? If you don't have the dark, you can't have the light. If you have to have both. It's the yin and the yang of the world, where you'll know when you have a success on your hands because you know what didn't work. If you just do the one thing, I do this all the time. I do one thing and I'm like, oh, I did it right. It's awesome. It's perfect. And then I go back and try to recreate it or try to expand on it. And then I realize that first one that I thought was amazing, total failure, right? Because what I came up with afterwards was the real success.
Beautifully.
Yep. So, and you're a certified Feng Shui practitioner as well, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Do you see overlap there? Because your response kind of, I could see that.
That has brought a huge balance to my life. I mean, going through that certification program, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago, really helped shape how I see things, because we really have to find balance in things, and we really have to think about, how does this space make me feel? How does this color make me feel? How does the imagery affect my life? Those things, like everyone thinks they're cute, these snarky little comments on t-shirts, or the front doormat that says go away. Well, you're literally like directing positive energy away from you at that point. Like, I know it's cutesy in the moment, but like, it's really not good in the long term, and we really need to be more conscious of what we're consuming and the things that we surround ourselves with.
You're so positive. This is great. I need to hear you like every day just to reinforce my own negative mind. But anyway, Jennie Richau, folks, is here, the founder of Studio Richau and Richau & Co. Is there anything else we missed? Anything you want to announce? Richau & Co. is coming out soon, right? It's going to debut.
Richau & Co. is coming out soon. Yep, we're launching later this month. Our soft opening is this coming weekend, and we're open. And come on by and check out the art and the handcrafted goods we have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jennie. This is a treat.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, good luck, Miss Jennie, and looking forward for more success.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Saul?
Yep. So again, follow Jennie at Studio Richau on Instagram. Check out her website, studiorichau.com. Check out our work. We've got some merch, right, Daniel?
Yes.
Up on what's the website? I always forget.
Totally
it's on this thing called the internet.
Yes, we totally forgot. Well, but next week we're gonna plug in our merchandise for sure.
Oh, the plugs will happen next week.
Yes.
But for right now, folks, check out studiorichau.com. Jennie, this is great. We wish you much success with your opening with Richau & Co. Artists, take a look at what Jennie's doing. It's going to be a really great idea, opportunity, especially in North Scottsdale, which needs it. It needs some culture.
Yes, indeed. So, Miss Jennie, again, thank you so much for being part on the Abstract Essay. We're looking forward for more success. Mr. Saul, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
More to come, people. See you soon.